Welcome to the fourth video in the 5-part series building the TREX 470LM Dominator Super Combo. This part of the build process, we're going to cover manual pages 13 through 18. That's basically the rest. In the last video, we'll cover the setup of the beast, plus and pitch, and some of the settings that I start with basically at the very beginning to before I fine tune things. Starting with page 13, we're going to need parts bag 470HT2, which is basically 470HT. In this bag we have, this is the brace support piece that goes on the back that holds a little fin. We have the tail blades. So this thing goes with that, and then we have the tail fin, which is the newer style. It has the coating around the outside of the carbon fiber, and we don't need the bag. So here's the tail. I'm gonna deassemble the entire tail. I'm gonna take the helicopter and set it aside. So start taking it apart. I'll lay it out so I can put it back together. I'm going to remove every single screw and ball link, and then we'll Loctite them back in place using red Loctite for the actual ball here. The rest will be blue Loctite. And Align has changed something on this model. They made the little nipple here that goes in through the boom. It appears to be a little longer in length. And I'm going to put this working from the front of the helicopter that direction. The rear to me, that's how this goes. I'm going to take each screw out. Okay, I'm going to put a little Loctite on. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the blade grips. I did pull this off out camera because the bearing fell out, but the thrust bearings behind here, I went ahead and put a little bit of grease on them and pushed the bearing back inside. I did it off camera because I've done it before. Just make sure that when you're doing the thrust bearings that the one that says in goes to the inside, so it goes to this side right here. In is closest to the middle of the hub. Then the thrust bearing. The thrust bearing has a concave where you can see all the balls, and the other side where you cannot see the majority of the little bearings. The concave section faces in towards the center, and then the thrust bearing that says out on the back is to the outside, and then bearing pushes everything in. So I'm going to go ahead and apply a little loctite. Right there. I'm putting the loctite inside the threads themselves. And that way the loctite won't push back out through the hub. Okay, I'm going to check them both. Now the screw goes in, there's a little collar, a little lower piece right located on this side, and the screw goes in from the larger piece, not the turn down side. So I'm going to take this screw out. Now I'm going to roll it over and apply a little bit of Loctite to the threads. There's none on the inside. We'll go ahead and put this back into place. Insert the screw. And it's tricky to line up. There we go. You do not want to over tighten this. It just needs to be snug, but if you crank it too hard, then this piece, the metal clips together and pinches the plastic. So you want this to be free and freely moving. See how this one's freely moving? This one needs to be freely moving also. This one's a little bit tight, so I'm going to take it back apart and see if what's in there causing it to not drop. Just checking the screw. Now there's two screws. One has looks shorter, stubby threads. That's the screw that goes into the actual metal piece. The one that has a little longer threaded piece, that's gonna screw into the tail blade holder. There we go. Much better. Be careful these little brass inserts. If you drop them, they're not fun to find. Okay, remember the turn down side goes towards the grip. Shoot, dropped it. And insert the screw into the little brass collar. Okay, we're going to start, as I said, with these two screws, and I'm going to work my way backwards. Okay, we're ready to attach the boom and put the piece together. I did remove the side pieces, just going to make it easier to go ahead and put on the rear gear. Alright, so I have the helicopter. What I'm going to do is use a piece of wire. I'm going to slide it through the boom. Through the belt and back down the boom. You want something that's a little firm enough to be able to push through the boom itself. And one thing I do know is that really which way's up? Well, the shorter piece of wire goes to the top, and I haven't allowed the bottom piece to twist. So I know the belt is in the right direction. I'm going to go ahead and check it. And this should allow the boom to slide right into place. And it is. Plenty of belt there. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the screws in place so that the boom is locked into place. Boom's all the way in. Get my loctite. I haven't tightened them. Put 2 in this side, and then I'm going to recheck the boom. And I don't know if I mentioned, but when I re-put these 2 tensioning screws in, I turned them all the way clockwise because that's loosening the little wheels are going to move away from the belt until they're just snug. That means they're all the way away from the belt. I have no tension on the belt, and that way when I tighten the belt tension, I'll do a half a turn on each side until I achieve the right belt tension. That way I keep pressure on both sides of the belt equally as the manual calls for. Okay, it's good. I'm going to put the 2 rear ones in, then I'll tighten each one of the screws up and the boom will be in place. Alright, tighten them up. The belt's flat, and all I'm doing here is I'm taking the belt and pulling, and out snug, just making sure there's no binding. And if I'm pulling on the right side and the head's going correctly, which it is clockwise, then I have the belt in the right position, because when you turn it a half a turn, the belt's going to spin the tail blades through the wash. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and install the tail. Check it again. Yep. right size. Can't see anymore. They're not tight yet. Snap that into place. Now we have the last insulation here. So I'm going to go ahead and put some Loctite from the top, and then put a little bit of Loctite in through the bottom. Dropped it. Now the last one to put in is the set screw. Just turn it till you can find there's a little cutout piece. It's got where it's been drilled. Got it right in line. And now we're going to install the set screw right into it, into that little groove. and you can tell that it's there as far as once in the groove, because it kind of rocks back and forth. If you move this, move the grips left and right just a little bit and hold the wheel or the gear, you can feel it locked in place, and then go ahead and tighten it up. Now, so that finishes the bottom of page, that finishes all of page 14. Now we're on page 15. And 15's fairly straightforward. We're going to turn around and install the boom supports and the push rod. The push rod, I'm just going to tighten these on. And I'm just putting on about equal lengths on both sides, because it's going to have to be placed in position in the next video when we set up the Beast Plus. Alright, so the push rod's done. Now we need the fin. These pieces. A little more Loctite. I'm not tightening, I'm going back and forth between the screws to tighten it up, and that way you're not tweaking it too much to one side or the other. That's good. Put another half a turn on the bottom. We have the little fin, and then the braces. Alright. Two of the washers were left over, and then two came in the kit. Okay, there's a little ridge this way, because when you put these two together, backwards, this lock will fit. Make sure you've got it straight. And do not over tighten the plastic in the back. Okay, now we have the tail fin on, little stabilizer, boom supports. That finishes page 15. Not going to put this on until we get to the Beast Plus setup for the tail. Show you how to do that in the next video. We are now on page 16. 16 is calling for the main blades. I'm not going to put the main blades on because I still have to do the wiring. Page 17 is installing the motor. So we're going to need the motor mount. Take the screws, go ahead and clean them. Helicopter on the side, And we're going to look for the motor. The motor is the BL470MX, and it's 1800 kV. All right, the motor wires can either, if the front of the helicopter is pointing that direction, are going to either sit here or sit to the left. I'm going to go ahead and position them to the right, and you're using a 2.5 6mm screw. I may have to reposition the motor after I have it in the helicopter to get the meshing right between the main gear and the pinion. I may also have to adjust the pinion up and down. I'm going to install the 4 socket screws. I'm going to loosen the motor. There we go. So we have the wires here for the motor, and okay, we have the motor installed. Now I have to go back and I'm going to do 3 or 4 things. First one is I'm going to take this little piece of foam that holds on the bottom of the canopy. This piece is applied on the bottom of the bottom plate frame. So the canopy is going to sit up against that. I need to install the tail servo. So I'm going to take off the little piece of tape. We're going to go ahead and attach that. So we're back on page 11. We're going to use, on this side you want to use longer screws, so these are 8 millimeters, and on this side it's 6 millimeters. And again, since you're going into plastic, it's a composite material. Do not over tighten. Now I'm going to need my ball link pliers. And the A faces out, so the A is going to face towards the frame, and the other A is going to attach here. So the A is are in place. The phasing arms are the last one I'm going to put on, because when I put on these two arms from the blade grips of the swash, I'm going to rotate them into position and snap them. So I'm going to take the swash itself and rotate into the links and then snap them in place. And these are easy to snap on because they snap directly into the swash. And without having this anti-phasing, I can, move it around and be able to play a little bit. So again, the A is facing out. Now these arms easily snap into place. One side doesn't say align, align faces to the rear. And you don't want to over tighten these canopy mounts. Everything is now installed on the helicopter except for the main blades, the tail blades, the ESC, and I haven't wired everything. I'm going to go ahead and do that without recording, and that way once I'm done I'll walk through every little step and what I've done with all the wires so that you have a clear understanding of how I've wired the helicopter and where I put the receiver. And the Beast Plus is going to go here. The ESC is going to go where the manual calls, right here. I'm using the built-in BEC, and I may have to make an extension and a splitter because I'm going to run power to the receiver and to the Beast as the Beast Plus calls for. At this point, we've completed video number 4 out of the 5-part series, building the 470L Dominator Super Combo Kit. Want to appreciate everybody taking the time to watch. Please like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Visit enterprisehobby.com for the latest blog postings and fun fly information and new product releases from Align. As always, thanks for flying Align.